Hey everyone, welcome back. So in our last video, we created the feed section. We created an individual feed section. As you can see in the screen, we have one username details here, user profile icon, profile picture, their name, and followed by the actual feed image. Then we have three icons for the like, comment, and share, and then the like count. But this is a static content, right? We cannot scroll through it. But if you look at the stories, we are able to scroll through them pretty smoothly. Now let's implement a flat list here also, and I'm pretty sure everyone know what flat list is because we covered that in the last two videos. We'll just be implementing a vertical version of flat list here. Basically very simple. We implemented a horizontal version here, we'll be implementing a vertical version just below that. So let's see how we can do that. So this is where our feed section is starting, and this whole thing is our feed section. So I'll just simply copy this. Okay, I will copy this and I will just cut it. I will save it and see if the app is working fine. Yeah, it is working fine. I will create a new component. So how we have the component for our story, I'll create a component for our feed also. So let's do that. Let's create feed component. So we'll come to the variables properties later, but let's simply create a component now. Okay, I'll just paste the whole thing over here. I will click on format document. Yeah, it's formatted. So I just copied everything from here and just simply put it over here. Okay, because that will help us in implementing our flat list easier. Okay, now let's copy this flat list code and just simply put it over here. I will just save it and I will remove this horizontal value because right now we need a vertical list, and I will remove this also. Okay. So here I cannot pass the stories data, can I? Because we need a different kind of information over here. This is story data coming up, but we need a completely different information over here. So how can we do that? We'll create a new data set for our feeds. So let's see how we can do that. I'll just copy this and I will minimize this to save the space. Yeah, okay, and then create one more const object. I'll name this feeds. Let there be an IDs, okay, fine, username, fine. These three data are fine. But now we need few more data. What is that? We need feed. That will also be a URL. And after that we need a like count. So let this be some static value. Okay. So we just copy and add these objects. So we added two more values to our dummy data, which is feed and like count. I would prefer if you can use you can use any images you want. I will just mix these images up and use it, so it will look a little different. You can feel free to use any URLs you want. There is no restriction over here on that. Okay, I'll just simply just copy these things and mix it up a little bit. Okay, done. Now one more. Yeah, done. Now let's add some properties to our feed component. So what will properties we'll have? We'll have the username anyway, because we have the username. Okay, let me see. We have the username coming up. Then we'll have the image URL, which is this particular image right here, and then we'll have the feed, which is this image, and then we'll have the like count. Perfect. This is the value right here. Okay. Now let's use this here in our actual code. We'll replace this one with our username value. We will replace image URL with, sorry, I made a mistake. We will use the image URL over here, and we will use the text username over here. Yeah, like this. Perfect. So it will use the username coming from there, and we use the image URL. Now we have the feed. So we'll copy this feed and we'll update this value. This is the feed static URL we gave, we'll make it dynamic. Now one more thing we need to do is the like count. Copy like count from here. We have a static like count value over there and we'll just replace it like this. Plain and simple. So we made the whole thing component dynamic. We have the data here. Now we just need to pass this feeds into our flat list. So let's do that. We'll go to our flat list code here. This is what we wrote just now. Instead of stories as data, we'll put feeds here. And then the component is also different, right? We're not using story component anymore. We are using feed component. And there we have a different set of properties. What are they? Username, image URL, feed and like count. So let's pass these values one by one. Username and image URL are passed already. I'll just copy these two and modify it. Make this feed item dot feed and then make this like count item dot like count. Perfect. Now if I go and see, check the output, it should ideally be the feeds coming in a list way. Okay, so let's cross check everything one time. Yeah, looks fine. Let's see the output. Yeah, we have one feed over here. If I scroll up, I can see another one. If I scroll up, I can see another one, and so on and so forth. So we successfully implemented a scroll view over here, right? We have the flat list for vertically scrolling the feed section, and then we have a horizontal scroll for our stories as well. And we almost 80% implemented the UI for Instagram. I'm not saying this is the identical UI, but this is well enough to get started, right? Now, let's move on to the last part. I think before that we can do a little bit of code quality check. Okay, let's go over to Visual Studio Code. Now, as you can see, this file is getting pretty long, right? How can I make this in a better way, in a compartmentalize it a little bit better? So I will create a new folder here. I will name that folder components. Okay, and I will create a new file there, and I will call that component story component .js. Fine. Now what I'll do is I'll go to apps. I'll copy the story component here from here, and I will paste it over there. Cool. And then I need to import this import statement as well. Yeah, we don't need style sheet. We're not using style sheet. Oh, sorry, we would need style sheet eventually. We don't need flat list. Now I need to copy the styles of this story component also, right? So story component has a story item and story profile pic and story title text style used. So let's go over there. We'll copy the whole styles and then we'll remove the unwanted ones from that. Copy, paste it in a different file. Now what do we need? We need story item. So we don't need these things. Let's remove those. We don't need this. Yeah, no, we need the story container. We don't need that. That is the flex. Story profile picture we need, story item we would need, and story title text we need. We can remove the rest of the things. Perfect. So that is done. Now we need to add a text just before that. Export default. Const would come before that. Cool. Perfect. Now if I go over to my app.js and try to use that story component, how can I do that? Let's see. In order to take any component from a separate folder from where we created the old one, in order to do that, we need to import that component first. So how do we import that component? Let's see. There's the import statement, and we just call that component like this. I type in S and it is giving me autocomplete. I just press enter, and that component has been imported from this file right here. Okay, so I have the story component whose code is not on app.js, but it is written in story component.js, and I'm just simply importing that file over here. Now let's see if I can just copy that, and I should be able to directly access it from here. Let me see the flat list. Yeah, story component. If I click on this, it is taking me to story component.js. Now let's save this and see if the code is working fine. Perfect. Stories are coming even though we did a major refactor in our code. We removed all of these things and it's still working as expected. Okay. Now, Let's do the same thing for our feed component also. Just create a new file, feed component.js. I will just come over here, copy everything, go to feed component, paste it. I'll just copy the input statement also from story component. No need of writing everything from scratch when we've already written it. You can simply copy paste it and save some time. We'll copy the styles and we'll only use the styles that are being used for feed component. We'll filter that out and take it. Don't worry. Let's go to app.js and see what are the things that we a feed container, feed miss. Yes, we'll copy these three. I think we can cut these. We don't need to copy them. We'll come here and we'll replace the story data with this one. Okay, let me do the same thing for this thing also. We'll remove it. Perfect. Now our code is much simpler and much easier to read, I think, right? We have the feed component where we only have the feed data. We'll change it to export default. We're doing this because we have written it in feed component. We are telling our React Native that application that we need to export this component, feed component, we need to export it and use it somewhere else. If we don't have this, we won't be able to use this in a different file. In order to use that component in a different file, we need to mention that this particular feed component, I'm going to export it, and this will be the default file which is being exported and will be used in a different file altogether. Okay, so if I save everything, will it work? Let's see. We have the feed component here. It's not taking me anywhere. Why is that? Let's see the output and let's see what we are getting in the output. There's nothing loading up. What is happening here? Let's refresh the output and see. Maybe if that is the problem. We refreshed it. Still nothing. There's an error now. What is it saying? Property feed component doesn't exist. What does that mean? So I told you guys, whenever we create a new file for a component, we need to import it first, right? So we did that import command for our story component, but we did not do it for feed component. So let's do that. We just write import over here on the top, write feed, and you can see the autocomplete is already giving us feed component. We press enter and it is exported now. Perfect. Now we have the feed component imported into our app.js file. Now let's save this and let's see if we can go to feed component. Yes, we can. And if we go and see the output, ideally it should work. There is an error. Okay, hard.png is not coming. Yes. Let's update this. Hard.png. Okay, I will explain this error in a bit. Let's see if the output is coming perfect or not. Yep, it is as expected. We're able to see, but the hard styling is not coming properly. We forgot to copy some styles from the previous component app.js. So let's do that also. Some small styling, logo style we need to copy. So go to app.js. Where is logo style? Just copy this. Go to your feed component, paste it over here, save it, and that's it. Everything is coming as expected, right? Now we extracted the whole feed component code from our app.js and put it inside a feed component. It made our code much more smaller and very, very readable. And this is ideally how you would be doing in a real-time project. Now that's all for this video. In the coming video, we'll be creating the bottom navigation bar and we'll wrap it up. Basically, we've already completed 80% of the design, only the bottom navigation bar is pending. And after we do that, we'll format the code a little bit more. So until then, follow and subscribe.